So why did France arrest one of the most prominent tech billionaires, Pavel Durov, and is he really such a freedom fighter as he paints himself? Well, he probably not exactly, but we'll get to that later.
Pavel Durov has been arrested in France. French authorities arrested Durov, alleging that his platform has been used for money laundering, drug trafficking, and other offenses.
Complicity in storing and distributing CSAM content, facilitating drug trafficking and facilitating organized fraud and other illegal transactions, taking part in criminal association with a view to committing crime or an offense punishable by 5 or more years of imprisonment, as well as money laundering. Yep, sounds about right. But it's just a billionaire doing his billionaire stuff. I mean, like, case closed, am I right? Fuck! POV, it's 2030 in Europe and you're being executed for liking a meme. Okay, what kind of meme are we talking about? Yeah, that should be like 20 years or something. Federal prison with suicide watch. Here's Nigel Farage, the British politician who loves Putin and pushing his country to the economical and political disaster. The arrest of Pavel Durov is worrying. Telegram is a secure free speech app. It may have some bad actors, but then all platforms do. What next? The arrest of Elon Musk? Well, I mean, if there's evidence of illegal activity committed by Elon Musk and the court ordered in a democratic country with, institutions and rule of law, I guess that, yeah, especially for his fucking memes, he's the worst. It's funny thing, by the way, that this guy, Elon Musk, is such a freedom fighter that he literally helped Indian government block opposition accounts on his social network, which he bought apparently to be owned by people he's trying to silence. Like this Indian activist. Can you please forward my X post to India, where both of my X accounts have been withheld by X due to censorship by the Modi regime? Thank you. And we're not even talking that Elon often blocks people who make fun of him on his social media, and you cannot write cisgender without getting flagged on Twitter now. But yeah, freedom, whatever. Edward Snowden. The arrest of Durov is an assault on the basic human rights of speech and association. I'm surprised and deeply saddened that Macron has descended to the level of taking hostages as a means of gaining access to private communications. It lowers not only France, but the world. You ran away and you live in Russia. Taking hostages is like third biggest business of this country after gas and oil. Anyway, it's a predictable reaction. Durov has been working for the last decade on an image of a freedom fighter, the guy who protects everyone from the evil governments and censorships. He even fled Russia, allegedly, in 2014 because Putin's regime wanted, allegedly, to take away his social media.
At some point, we had this very stressful situation where armed policemen would come to my house, try to break in, because I refused to take down these opposition groups that I mentioned earlier.
He also posted this quote with a photo of him riding a white horse in a desert. To be truly free, you should be ready to risk everything for freedom. He even has a post with Braveheart Mel Gibson photo telling how he secured Telegram access for Russians during protests. So Russia allegedly tried to block Telegram since 2017 without much of a success, and the narrative was that genius hacking and coding minds of Telegram managed to secure access for it for Russians, and the civil Russian authoritarian machine lost its battle for censorship. So considering everything I said, you might assume that Russian regime is pretty much happy with Durov's arrest, doesn't care, something like that. I mean, like, why should they care, right?
Pavel Durov has fallen into the gears of what we call a digital dictatorship.
So what the hell was that? Oh yeah, that's Russian propaganda machine getting really invested in Pavel Durov's freedom.
Pash, you can breathe freely and easily only in Russia. Come back home. Here you'll always be remembered, awaited and loved.
That beautiful creature is one of the main new Russian pop stars, by the way, fascist singer who sings about patriotism and conquering other nations. And when we say fascist, what we actually mean is freaking fascist, recreating Nazi propaganda visuals. But that's not why we're here, right? We're here because Russian government is too worried for some reason. Moscow is ready to provide the necessary assistance to Telegram founder Pavel Durov, stated by the press secretary of Putin. Russia has sent a note demanding access to businessman Pavel Durov, Russian Foreign Ministry spokesman Maria Zakharova. Okay, that's a lot of attention for the guy who's supposedly fighting against you? Russian Presidential Commissioner for Human Rights Tatyana Moskalkova believes that the reason for the arrest of Telegram founder Pavel Durov in France is an attempt to shut down his service. Aren't you the ones who tried to shut down his service? Anyway, the list of high-profile endorsements of Pavel Durov from Russian authorities goes on, but it's not only that. Russian army got really nervous because of the news. In essence, they arrested the head of communications of the Russian armed forces. Oh, that status will definitely not help you with promoting an encrypted messaging app of yours. They even started to write "for Durov" on the shells which they used to kill Ukrainians. So this whole thing is weird. He's a freedom fighter who gets all his support from dictatorship, which he allegedly fights, and from the fans and shills of this dictatorship. Wait a second. Is this billionaire not an actual freedom fighter? The Telegram team blocked bots associated with election campaigning created by Russian opposition in order to observe the days of silence, quote-unquote, during the elections in the Russian Federation, Durov said. Whoa, what? Wait a second, I thought Telegram is about freedom of speech and does not block opposition on governmental request. In 2015, Telegram agreed to restrict some of its features in Iran at the request of the Iranian government. Telegram is shutting down a channel that called for violent protests against Iran's governments. There are lines one shouldn't cross, says the CEO of the popular messaging app. Funny he said that, because at the same time, Russian Nazis are pretty much free to write this stuff. Rusich military unit. We ask the allied units to provide us with one captured Ukrainian, preferably not a full-fledged Slav, but a smoked Crimean Tatar or something similar, to perform a ritual sacrifice to the Slavic gods on the holiday of the autumn equinox, to encourage and strengthen the spirit of the new personnel of the unit. With suggestions, write to the feedback bot. Yeah, Russians are posting such things all over Telegram, and if you think, hey, this CEO guy is definitely not consistent and probably just obeys the state censorship in the worst regimes like Iran and Russia, because that's where his business operates, and these regimes can actually block his social media in a day without criticism from Elon Musk's, unlike France, you'll be probably right. But, that's too much of a speculation. My conspiracy brain asks for more suspicious facts and evidence. According to Yaroslav Azhnuk and Ukrainian Pravda, Pavel Durov has recently traveled to Russia more than 60 times between 2014 and 2021. They obtained this information from the anonymous leak from the hacked Russian databases, which proved to be legit. And that's after his alleged exile, after pressure from Russian regime and secret services, which tried to get his encrypted app, and boy, it gets weirder. So he needed money because Telegram didn't actually get any profit because it's free. In 2018, he started his crypto initiative. He raised $1.7 billion in 2 rounds from more than 170 investors, including Russian billionaires Yuri Miller and Roman Abramovich, former Medvedev minister Mikhail Abizov, Said Kutseriev, and major venture capital funds. So let me clarify something. All of those Russian oligarchs are close to Putin. You are not becoming a billionaire in Russia without being close to government. They are more like CEOs of state-owned corporations than businessmen. So it's almost like Russian state or Putin investing in Telegram. So this cryptocurrency initiative was eventually crashed by the US regulator, and he had to give all the money back with interest. And that's when the things started to look even more suspicious. In 2020, Durov reported that over the years his team has become more effective in removing extremist propaganda and promised to support MPs if they want to fight terrorism without violating the right to correspondence secrecy. That's when Durov arrived in Russia for the first time since December 2017, when Russians started trying to block Telegram in Russia. The date of the border crossing is not shown in FSB databases, but it is safe to say that Durov was in St. Petersburg on June 18, 2020, on the evening of the day he boarded a plane from Pulkovo, Russia, to Belgrade, Serbia. On the afternoon of June 18th, Roskomnadzor, Russian censorship authority, suddenly released a statement about stopping the blocking of the messenger in Russia in coordination with the Prosecutor General's office, saying, "We positively assess the readiness expressed by the founder of Telegram to counter terrorism and extremism." Okay, I'm not sure this thing needs explanation, but when a dictatorship praises your readiness to counter terrorism and extremism, it's not a good thing. Russia marks as extremist every opposition movement and sends their members to jail, including Navalny, by the way, who died in prison recently. Durov spent the next 2 days in Belgrade. A Serbian notary read him a settlement agreement between Telegram Group Incorporated and the SEC in this crypto case, according to court documents. Under the settlement agreement, Durov, immediately after he visited Russia, pledged to return $1.193 billion to investors, pay another $30 million over 3 years, pay a fine of $18.5 million to United States. Wow, that surely sounds like he miraculously solved his financial problems after one visit to Russia, innit? 3 weeks after Russia unblocked Telegram, the company's vice president Ilya Perikopsky appeared at a conference outside Kazan to talk about growing Russia's IT industry, and both he and Prime Minister of Russia, Mikhail Mishustin, made pledges to fight the dominance of American tech. That's freedom I'm talking about. Freedom from American hegemony, right? Am I right? Yeah?
We should negotiate rather than ban, as was the case with Telegram.
And with Telegram we had a deal, everything's working, everything's fine.
That's Putin during his Q&A sessions. That was his bag. Horrible job by the production, by the way. Yeah, I mean, whatever, mate. You're like freedom fighter making an app for people to communicate securely, but you take money from one of the bloodiest censorship-obsessed dictatorships and they praise you for fighting extremism, and their dictator publicly states that you had a deal. According to The Wire, the Russian state-owned bank VTB was also involved in negotiations. In January 2021, reporting came out that VTB has estimated the company's value as high as $124 billion by 2022. Telegram also said it would start selling 5-year bonds. VTB would help shop them around to investors. By March 2021, Telegram had raised more than $1 billion from these backers. I guess Tucker Carlson didn't ask about that during the interview, innit? Durov, unlike Tucker Carlson, stopped traveling to Russia in 2021, right before the Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine, but his assistant, who previously prepared Durov's visit to the country, still goes there. He also accompanied him on a trip to Azerbaijan right before his detention in France, and in Azerbaijan, Durov was allegedly supposed to be meeting Putin, or not, but Putin was there at the same time, and we don't know what happened there. So, yeah. Anyway, nothing to see here, just a normal fight for freedom, you just don't understand it. So what's the moral of the story? Well, we don't really know what evidence French court has and what exactly did Durov do and what deals he made with the Russian government, but it's obvious this guy is not fighting for your freedom or whatever, and he surely has a lot of connections with one of the worst regimes on this planet for a guy who owns an encrypted messaging app. So there's that. And let's hope for a fair trial and wish everyone luck in the process. And that's that. Thank you very much. Subscribe to our channel and try to not get arrested or something.